So, this is what you've been doing while I worked on our future?
The diploma felt like cardboard in my hands. 43 years old, and I'd finally finished my criminal justice degree, something I'd started 20 years ago before life got in the way. The auditorium was nearly empty now, just a few stragglers taking photos with their families. I stood there in my cap and gown, looking like an idiot. My phone buzzed. 47 missed calls from Candy, my wife of 18 years. The last text read, "We need to talk. Urgently." Nothing says, "I love you," like missing your husband's graduation for hot dogs at your brother-in-law's barbecue. I pulled off the cap and gown, stuffing them into the bag with my diploma. Jack Ellery, University Security Chief, finally had his degree. Too bad nobody gave a damn. The parking lot was almost empty. My 10-year-old Honda sat alone under a flickering streetlight. I'd told Candy about this graduation 6 months ago. Hell, I'd reminded her last week. But when push came to shove, Dean's annual barbecue took priority. My phone rang. Candy. "Jack, thank God, where are you?" "Just finished walking across the stage. You know that thing we talked about for 6 months?" Silence. Then, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Dean's thing ran late and the kids were having such a good time." "Save it, Candy, I'm coming home." "Actually, don't. I mean, we're still at Dean's. Why don't you come over? Everyone's asking about you." "Everyone's asking about me." "Right. More like everyone forgot I existed. I'm tired. I'll see you at home." I hung up and drove through the quiet streets of Millfield, Maine. Our little city had seen better days. The paper mill closed 5 years ago, taking half the decent jobs with it. Now we had a handful of tech companies, a struggling downtown, and too many people with too much time to gossip. Our house sat on Maple Street, a restored Victorian that Candy insisted we buy when her HR job started paying well. I'd spent 3 years fixing it up, learning plumbing and electrical work on YouTube. The basement workshop was my sanctuary, tools organized, workbench clean, everything in its place. I pulled into the driveway and noticed something odd. Candy's car was here. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house felt different, too clean, like someone had been scrubbing away evidence. The living room pillows were perfectly arranged. Candy never arranged pillows. "Candy?" I called out. No answer. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom. The bed was made with military precision, complete with hospital corners. Candy made the bed maybe twice a year, and never like this. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Don't forget your jacket at Rick's place. Trina." Wrong number. Or was it? I went back downstairs and found Candy's phone on the kitchen counter, plugged into the charger. She never left her phone behind, ever. The woman slept with that thing under her pillow. The screen lit up when I touched it. No password. Weird. The text messages made my stomach drop. "Rick Dalton. Last night was incredible. Still thinking about you. Candy. Me too. Jack's graduation is tonight. Perfect timing. Rick. Your bed or mine next time. Candy. Yours. Less risky." There were dozens of them, going back 3 months. Photos too. Candy in lingerie I'd never seen. Rick's hands on her body, both of them in what looked like our bedroom. I sat down hard in the kitchen chair. 18 years of marriage, and she was screwing Rick Dalton. Rick, who sold used cars and still talked about his high school football glory days. Rick, who owed half the town money and thought a gold chain made him look sophisticated. The front door opened. "Jack? You home already?" Candy's voice carried that fake cheerfulness she used when she was nervous. I closed her phone and slid it back where I found it. "In the kitchen," I called out. She appeared in the doorway, still wearing her barbecue clothes, designer jeans and a top that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. At 41, Candy still turned heads. Blonde hair, gym-toned body, smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. That smile had fooled me for years. How was graduation? I'm so sorry we missed it. Dean's thing just got crazy and you left your phone. Her eyes flicked to the counter. Oh, right. I was in such a rush. She grabbed it, checking the screen quickly. So, tell me about graduation. Was it nice? It was fine. Just me and a few hundred strangers. Jack, don't be like that. We can celebrate tomorrow night. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Like the good old days, before she started celebrating with Rick Dalton. I'm tired, Candy. Long day. Of course. You go rest. I'll be up in a bit. I headed upstairs, my mind racing. 18 years. 2 kids who were away at college, a house we'd built together, literally and figuratively, and she was throwing it all away for Rick fucking Dalton. In my workshop that night, I made a decision. Candy wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that I'd spent 20 years in security, and 10 years before that as a cop. I knew how to investigate, I knew how to plan, and I knew how to make people pay for their mistakes. The next morning, Candy left for work like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek and said something about working late. Sure she was. I waited until her car disappeared, then got to work. First stop, Lenny Morrison, my only real friend at the university. Lenny ran campus IT and had a flexible relationship with privacy policies. He also owed me 3 favors from times I'd covered for him when he showed up hungover. Jackie boy. Lenny grinned when I walked into his office. Heard you finally graduated, about damn time. Thanks. Listen, I need a favor. Shoot. I need to set up some security cameras at my house, the discreet kind. Lenny's grin faded. Everything okay? Let's just say I want to keep an eye on things when I'm not home. He studied my face for a moment, then nodded. I've got some equipment that fell off a truck, wireless, motion-activated, smartphone monitoring. When do you need it? Today. That bad, huh? That bad? 2 hours later, Lenny and I were installing cameras throughout my house. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, front and back entrances, all connected to an app on my phone. You sure about this, Jack? Sometimes ignorance is bliss. I'm way past bliss, Lenny. Next, I drove to First National Bank and had a chat with Susan Peters, the branch manager. I'd helped her son out of a drunk driving charge 2 years ago, another favor I could call in. Jack, how are you? How's Candy? That's actually what I wanted to talk about. I need to make some changes to our accounts. 20 minutes later, I'd moved half our joint savings into a separate account with only my name on it. I also changed the direct deposit for my paycheck. If Candy was planning to leave me for Rick, she wouldn't be doing it with my money. My phone buzzed, a text from Candy. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. I texted back, no problem. Love you. The lies came so easily now. That evening, I drove to Murphy's Diner, the unofficial gossip headquarters of Millfield. If you wanted to know who was sleeping with whom, who was getting divorced, or who was about to lose their job, Murphy's was ground zero. Mrs. Callahan was holding court in her usual corner booth. 83 years old, sharp as a tack, and the town's unofficial information broker. Jackie Ellery, she called out when she saw me. Heard you graduated yesterday. Congratulations, dear. Thank you, Mrs. Callahan. Mind if I join you? Of course not. Sit. Where's that pretty wife of yours? Working late, seems to be doing that a lot lately. Mrs. Callahan's eyes lit up. She could smell gossip like a bloodhound. Oh, is that so? Well, funny thing. I saw her car at Rick Dalton's place last night, around 10:30. Thought it was odd, what with you having your graduation and all. Rick's place? That new apartment complex on River Street, Building C. I was visiting my niece and there it was, Candy's little blue Honda, clear as day. I felt my jaw clench. Maybe she was helping him with something. Oh, I'm sure she was helping him with something. Mrs. Callahan's eyes twinkled with mischief. That Rick's been quite the busy bee lately. Different car there every few nights. Man's got more visitors than a doctor's office. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Of course, it's none of my business what consenting adults do. But if I were married to a nice man like you, I wouldn't be visiting Rick Dalton at 10:30 at night. Just saying. I thanked Mrs. Callahan and drove home, my anger building with every mile. The house was dark and empty. I checked the camera app on my phone, no activity since I'd left. At 11:15, headlights swept across the living room. I watched through the bedroom window as Candy parked in the driveway. She sat in the car for a full minute, probably checking her appearance, making sure she didn't smell like another man. I pretended to be asleep when she slipped into bed. "Jack? You awake?" I didn't answer. She curled up against my back, and I had to fight every instinct not to pull away. Her hair smelled like Rick's cologne, cheap and cloying. The next morning, I made coffee and toast like nothing had happened. "Sleep well?" I asked when Candy came downstairs. "Like a baby. You?" "Great. Hey, I was thinking, maybe we should take that vacation we talked about. Get away for a week or two." Candy's face went pale. "Oh, I can't right now. Big project at work. Maybe in a few months?" "Sure. No rush." After she left, I checked her laptop. She'd left it open on the kitchen table, sloppy for someone trying to hide an affair. Her email was still logged in. The calendar told the whole story. Meeting with Rick every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 2 months. Dinner with client on nights when I knew she was with him. Team building exercise last weekend when she'd claimed to be at a work retreat. I copied everything to a thumb drive, then cleared the browser history. If Candy was going to lie to me, the least I could do was return the favor. That afternoon, I drove to Dalton's used cars. The lot sat on a busy corner downtown, all bright banners and inflated prices. Rick's office was a double-wide trailer with "financing available" painted on the side in red letters. Rick Dalton hadn't changed much since high school, still built like a linebacker gone soft, still wearing too much cologne, still thinking he was God's gift to women. The gold chain was new, though. Classy touch. "Jack Ellery. How the hell are you, buddy?" Buddy. Right. "Not bad, Rick. Looking for something reliable. Maybe a sedan." "You came to the right place. Got a beautiful Camry, low miles, one owner, a little old lady who only drove it to church." "They all say that." Rick laughed too loud. "You got me there. But seriously, this one's clean. Want to take a look?" We walked around the lot, Rick giving me his sales pitch. He was good at it, I had to admit. Smooth talker, confident, the kind of guy who could sell ice to Eskimos. I could see why Candy was attracted to him. "So how's married life treating you?" Rick asked as we looked under the hood of a Honda Accord. "Can't complain. 18 years next month." 18 years, wow, that's really something. There was something in his voice. Guilt, maybe, or excitement. Hard to tell. "Yeah, Candy and I are pretty solid. Trust is everything in a marriage, you know?" Rick's smile faltered for just a second. "Absolutely. Trust is, yeah, that's important." I test drove the Accord, haggled over the price, then told Rick I needed to think about it. As I was leaving, I palmed his business card holder from the desk. Old cop habit. Always take something. That night, Candy worked late again. I sat in my workshop, looking at Rick's business cards and thinking about my next move. The cameras would give me evidence. The financial moves would protect my assets. But I wanted more than that. I wanted them to hurt the way they'd hurt me. My phone buzzed. A text from Candy. "Really late night. Crashing at Trina's. See you tomorrow." Trina Walsh was Candy's best friend and biggest enabler. If Candy was crashing at Trina's, she was really spending the night with Rick. I opened the camera app and scrolled through the day's footage. At 3:47 p.m., Candy had come home to shower and change clothes. She'd put on the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. For Rick fucking Dalton. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and started planning. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Thursday morning, Candy announced she had a client dinner and would be home late. According to her calendar, this was code for another night with Rick. I called in sick to work and spent the day preparing. First, I visited 3 different stores and bought supplies: spray paint, super glue, a bag of frozen fish, and a cheap prepaid phone. Cash only. No credit cards, no paper trail. Then I drove to Rick's apartment complex on River Street. Building C, just like Mrs. Callahan had said. Rick's BMW was parked in spot 23, gleaming in the afternoon sun. The man was nothing if not predictable. I waited until dark, then got to work. The fish went into the air vents of Rick's car. They'd start smelling in a day or two, and the odor would be impossible to remove. The superglue went into the door locks. The spray paint spelled out "Homewrecker" across his windshield in bright red letters. Then I called the apartment complex's management company from the prepaid phone. "Hi, this is Detective Morrison with the Millfield Police," I said, deepening my voice. "We've had reports of suspicious activity in Building C, possible drug dealing. You might want to increase security patrols." It was a small lie, but it would make Rick's life more complicated. The next morning, I was drinking coffee and reading the paper when Candy stumbled through the front door at 7 a.m. Her hair was messy, her makeup smeared, and she was wearing the same black dress from the night before. "Morning," I said without looking up from the sports section. "Oh, Jack, you're up early." "Couldn't sleep. How was your client dinner?" "It was fine. Ran really late. Trina and I ended up talking until all hours." "That's nice. Coffee's fresh if you want some." She poured herself a cup with shaking hands. "I'm going to shower and change. Long day ahead." 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Rick Dalton. "Jack, it's Rick, from the car lot. Listen, I need to ask you something." "What's up, Rick?" "Someone vandalized my car last night. Spray paint, glue in the locks, the works. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" "Why would I know anything about your car?" "Come on, Jack. This is about Candy, isn't it?" The line went quiet. Rick had just admitted he knew about the affair. "I don't know what you're talking about, Rick." "Look, maybe we should meet. Talk this through like adults." "I think we should. How about Murphy's Diner, 1 o'clock? "Fine." "But Jack..." I hung up. At 1 o'clock sharp, I walked into Murphy's Diner. Rick was already there, sitting in a back booth, looking nervous. His usual swagger was gone. "Jack, thanks for coming." I slid into the booth across from him. "So talk." "Look, I know you know. About me and Candy." "Do I?" "Come on, man. The car thing was a pretty clear message." "What car thing?" Rick's face flushed red. "You know damn well what car thing. Someone spray-painted my BMW, glued the locks, put rotten fish in the vents. Cost me $800 to get it cleaned up." "That's terrible. Did you call the police?" "Don't play dumb with me, Jack." I leaned forward. "I'm not playing anything, Rick. You called me, remember? Said you wanted to talk about my wife. So talk." Rick looked around the diner nervously. Mrs. Callahan was 2 booths away, pretending not to listen but hanging on every word. "Maybe we should do this somewhere more private." "I'm comfortable here. You said you wanted to talk like adults." "So talk." Rick lowered his voice. "Candy and we have feelings for each other." "Feelings. It wasn't supposed to happen. It just did." "How long?" 3 months. Maybe 4. "In my house?" "Jack, in my bed?" Rick's silence was answer enough. I felt something cold settle in my chest, not anger, something deeper and more dangerous. "Here's what's going to happen, Rick. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to stay away from my house. And if I see you anywhere near my family, we're going to have a very different kind of conversation. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm making you a promise." I stood up and dropped a $5 bill on the table. "Enjoy your coffee, Rick." And Rick, Next time someone vandalizes your car, you might want to think about why. I walked out of the diner, leaving Rick sitting there with his mouth open. Mrs. Callahan gave me a little wave as I passed her booth. That evening, Candy tried to act normal. She made dinner, asked about my day, even suggested we watch a movie together. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept checking her phone. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine. Just work stuff." "Anything I can help with?" "No, it's complicated." I'll bet it was. Around 9 o'clock, Candy's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and went pale. "I need to run to the store. We're out of milk. We have a full gallon in the fridge." "Oh, right. I meant bread. We're out of bread." She grabbed her purse and keys and practically ran out the door. I waited 5 minutes, then followed her. Candy drove straight to the River Street apartments. I parked across the street and watched her hurry into Building C. 10 minutes later, she came back out with Rick. They were arguing. I could see the angry gestures, the way Rick kept pointing back at the building. Then Rick grabbed Candy's arm and shook her. Hard. That's when I got out of my car. "Hey!" I shouted across the parking lot. They both turned. Candy looked terrified. Rick looked guilty. I walked over slowly, my hands at my sides. "Is there a problem here?" "Jack, I can explain," Candy started. "I wasn't talking to you." I looked at Rick. I asked if there was a problem. "No problem," Rick said, but he didn't let go of Candy's arm. "Then let go of my wife." "Jack, please," Candy said. "Let go. Office my wife." Rick released Candy's arm and stepped back. "Look, Jack, this isn't what it looks like." "Really?" "What does it look like, Rick?" We were just..." I looked at Candy. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "Get in your car and go home," I told her. "Jack, now." Candy looked between Rick and me, then hurried to her car. She drove off without looking back. Rick and I stood there in the parking lot, sizing each other up. "This ends now," I said. "You can't tell me what to do." "I'm not telling you. I'm asking nicely. Once..." Rick puffed out his chest. "Or what?" I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Or we find out how tough you really are." Rick took a step forward, then thought better of it. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." I walked back to my car, feeling Rick's eyes on my back. When I got home, Candy was sitting at the kitchen table, still crying. "We need to talk," she said. "Yes, we do." Candy and I sat across from each other at the kitchen table like opposing lawyers. The house felt different now, charged with 18 years of history and 3 months of lies. "I never meant for this to happen," she began. "But it did happen." "Jack, please, let me explain." "I'm listening." She took a shaky breath. "I felt invisible, like we were just going through the motions. You with your work, me with mine, the kids away at college. We barely talked anymore." "So you decided to talk to Rick Dalton." "It wasn't like that. He came into the office about financing for the lot expansion. We got to talking, and he was attentive. He listened to me. In our bed." Candy flinched. "How did you..." "I've seen the photos, Candy. I've read the texts. I know about the client dinners and the team building exercises and all the other bullshit you've been feeding me for months." She started crying again. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Are you? Or are you sorry you got caught?" "I'm sorry I hurt you. I never wanted that. But you did it anyway. For 3 months, you looked me in the eye and lied. You let me plan a future while you were screwing someone else in our bed." "Jack, I'm not finished." My voice was calm, which seemed to scare her more than yelling would have. "You missed my graduation. The thing I'd been working toward for 2 years. You missed it to be with him." I know, and I hate myself for it." "Do you love him?" The question hung in the air between us. Candy opened her mouth, closed it, then looked down at her hands. I don't know. That's an answer. Jack, I want to fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. With what money? I moved half our savings this morning. Changed my direct deposit too. Her head snapped up. You what? You heard me. If you want to be with Rick, you can do it on your own dime. You can't do that. I already did. Funny thing about joint accounts. Either party can make changes. Candy's tears had stopped. Now she looked angry. This is my house too. Is it? Because for the past 3 months, you've been living somewhere else every Tuesday and Thursday night. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every time you texted him, every time you met him, every time you lied to my face. Those were all choices. She stood up abruptly. Fine. You want to be vindictive? 2 can play that game. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know things about you too, Jack. Things that might interest your boss. Like how you've been using university resources for personal business. Security cameras, background checks, financial records. Careful, Candy. Or what? You'll threaten me like you threatened Rick? I didn't threaten Rick. I made him a promise. Same thing. I stood up and looked at my wife, really looked at her. The woman I'd married, had children with, built a life with. She was threatening to destroy my career to protect her affair. You know what the difference is between a threat and a promise? I asked. What? Follow through. I walked upstairs, leaving Candy standing in the kitchen. In our bedroom, my bedroom now, I packed a suitcase with her clothes. Everything she'd need for a few days, maybe longer. When I came back downstairs, she was on the phone. I don't care what he said, she was telling someone. He can't just kick me out of my own house. She hung up when she saw me. Talking to Rick? I asked. My lawyer. Good. You'll need one. I set the suitcase by the front door. I think you should stay somewhere else tonight. Give us both time to cool off. You're kicking me out? I'm suggesting you might be more comfortable elsewhere. Say, at Rick's place. This is insane. What's insane is thinking you could have your cake and eat it too. What's insane is believing I'd just sit here and take it while you paraded your boyfriend around town. Jack, please, the locks will be changed tomorrow. If you need anything else, call first. Candy stared at me like she'd never seen me before. I don't know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I've always been. The difference is, now I know who you are. She grabbed the suitcase and headed for the door, then turned back. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. After she left, I poured myself a bourbon and sat in my workshop, thinking. Candy was right about one thing. I had used university resources for personal business. The cameras, the background software, even Lenny's help. If she wanted to play dirty, she had ammunition. But so did I. I opened my laptop and started typing. An email to the HR director at Candy's company, with copies of her calendar entries showing personal appointments during work hours. Another email to the Better Business Bureau about Rick's financing practices. I'd done some digging and found several complaints that had been mysteriously withdrawn. Then I made a phone call. Mrs. Callahan? It's Jack Ellery. I hope I'm not calling too late. Not at all, dear. I was just watching the news. Terrible things happening in the world. Yes, ma'am. Listen, I wanted to thank you for being so kind about everything. With Candy and all. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry about that. The whole town's talking about it. Perfect. I just hope people understand that I tried to save the marriage. Some folks might think I should have fought harder for her. Nonsense. Any woman who would cheat on a good man like you isn't worth fighting for. And with Rick Dalton, of all people. That man's been through more women than a barbershop goes through towels. Has he now? Oh my, yes. There was Linda Peterson last year, and before that, the Morrison girl. And I heard tell he's got some financial troubles too. Something about back taxes and unpaid loans. I let Mrs. Callahan talk for 20 minutes, filing away every piece of gossip for future use. By the time I hung up, I had enough dirt on Rick to bury him twice over. The next morning, I changed the locks and installed a new security system. Then I drove to work, where my boss was waiting for me. "Jack, we need to talk." "About what, Chief?" "I got a call this morning. Someone's making accusations about misuse of university property." "What kind of accusations?" "The kind that could get you fired if they're true." I nodded slowly. Candy works fast. "So it's true?" "Some of it. I used the background check software to look into my wife's boyfriend, and Lenny helped me set up some security cameras." Chief Morrison rubbed his temples. "Jesus, Jack. Why didn't you just hire a private investigator?" "Because I am an investigator. Was, anyway." "This puts me in a tough spot." "I know. I'll clean out my desk." "Hold on. I didn't say you were fired. I said we needed to talk." I looked at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you used some vacation time to handle personal business. And maybe Lenny was helping a friend with a home security issue on his own time. Mistakes in the paperwork happen all the time." "Why would you do that?" "Because in 30 years of police work, I learned that sometimes good people do questionable things for the right reasons. And because your wife's been screwing around on you, and that's punishment enough for any man." I felt something tight in my chest loosen. "Thanks, Chief." "Don't thank me yet. You've got to promise me this ends here. No more university resources, no more vigilante bullshit. Handle your divorce like a grown-up." "I promise." It was a lie, but a necessary one. That afternoon, I got a call from Candy. "The locks are changed," she said without preamble. "Yes, they are. I want my things. Make a list. I'll pack them up. I want to get them myself. That's not going to happen. You can't keep me out of my own house, Jack. Watch me." She hung up. 10 minutes later, she called back. "My lawyer says you have to let me in." "Your lawyer can call my lawyer." "You don't have a lawyer." "I do now. Got one this morning. Funny thing, he used to be married to a cheater, too. He's very motivated." Another hang-up. This was getting fun. That evening, I was grilling a steak on the back patio when I heard a car in the driveway. Through the kitchen window, I saw Rick's BMW, or what was left of it. The smell of rotten fish was overwhelming, even from inside the house. Rick got out of the car and marched to the front door. I could hear him pounding on it from the backyard. "Open up, Jack." "We need to talk." I flipped the steak and took another sip of beer. Let him pound. The pounding stopped. A few minutes later, Rick appeared in the backyard, having walked around the house. "There you are." "Rick, how's the car?" "You know damn well how the car is. $800 in cleaning bills and it still smells like a fish market." "That's terrible. Did you try Febreze?" Rick's face was red with anger. "This has gone far enough." "Has it?" "Candy left you, Jack. It's over. Time to move on." "Candy didn't leave me. I kicked her out. There's a difference. Either way, she's with me now." I looked at Rick, really looked at him. Expensive clothes, gold chain, manicured nails. The kind of man who thought money and flash could buy him anything he wanted. "Is she? Because from what I hear, you've got money problems. Back taxes, unpaid loans, business troubles. Doesn't sound like you're in a position to take care of anybody." Rick's confident expression faltered. "Who told you that?" "Small town, Rick. People talk. My finances are none of your business. They are when you're spending my wife's money. I'm not the hotel bills, Rick, the dinners, the weekend trips. I've seen the credit card statements. Candy's been paying for everything, hasn't she?" Rick's silence confirmed it. "So what happens when the money runs out? When Candy realizes she's just another mark in your long line of sugar mamas?" "It's not like that." "Isn't it? Linda Peterson thought the same thing. So did the Morrison girl. How'd that work out for them?" Rick took a step toward me. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I stood up, still holding my beer. "Here's what I think happened. Your business is failing, you're behind on your bills, and you need money fast. So you target lonely wives with good jobs and fat bank accounts. You romance them, get them to pay for everything, then move on when the well runs dry. That's not... The only problem is, this time you picked the wrong wife. Because this wife belongs to someone who doesn't give up easy. Rick's hands clenched into fists. Are you threatening me again? I'm educating you. See, Rick, I know things about you. Things that might interest the IRS, or the state licensing board, or your ex-wife's divorce lawyer. You're bluffing. I smiled and pulled out my phone. Linda Peterson, divorced last year, claimed her husband was hiding assets. Turns out those assets were being spent on a certain used car salesman who promised to leave his wife for her. Rick went pale. Then there's the Morrison girl, 19 years old, working at the bank. Gave you access to customer information for your financing scams, lost her job when they found out, had to move back in with her parents. I'm a security chief, Rick. Investigation is what I do. And right now I'm investigating you. Rick looked around the backyard like he was trapped. What do you want? I want you to leave my wife alone. I can't do that. I love her. I laughed. Actually laughed. You love her money, but that's about to dry up, isn't it? Because Candy just lost access to half our savings, and her credit cards are about to get canceled. You can't do that. I already did. Funny thing about joint accounts and shared credit, either spouse can make changes. Rick's face went from pale to red. You bastard. Maybe. But I'm a bastard with a clean conscience and a good lawyer. Rick stood there for a long moment, breathing hard. Then he turned and walked back toward his car. This isn't over, Jack. Yes, it is. You just don't want to admit it. I watched him drive away, his BMW leaving a trail of fish smell behind it. Then I went back to grilling my steak. For the first time in months, I had an appetite. 3 days later, I was drinking coffee and reading the paper when someone knocked on my front door. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in a business suit holding an official-looking envelope. Jack Ellery? That's me. You've been served. The divorce papers were predictable. Candy wanted half of everything, including the house. What surprised me was the restraining order. According to the document, I was harassing and threatening both Candy and Rick, and was prohibited from contacting either of them. I called my lawyer. They're trying to control the narrative, he explained. Make you look like the bad guy before we get to court. Can they do that? They can try, but restraining orders work both ways. If Candy can't contact you, she can't come to the house or access the joint accounts. What about Rick? What about him? The order protects him too. Jack, whatever you're thinking, don't. You're already walking a thin line. I hung up and made another call. Lenny, it's Jack. I need one more favor. Jesus, Jack, haven't you caused enough trouble? This is the last one. I promise. What do you need? I need to know where Rick keeps his business records. The real ones, not the ones he shows the IRS. That sounds illegal. I'm not asking you to steal anything. I just need to know where to look. Lenny was quiet for a long moment. His office has a safe, behind the picture of his high school football team. Combination is probably his jersey number, 23. How do you know that? Because Rick's an idiot, and idiots are predictable. That night, I drove to Rick's car lot. The place was dark except for the security lights, and Rick's BMW was parked behind the office trailer. I'd done this kind of thing 100 times as a cop. Late-night searches, evidence gathering, building cases against people who thought they were smarter than the law. The trailer's lock was a joke. I was inside in 30 seconds. Rick's office was exactly what I'd expected. Cheap furniture, fake awards, and pictures of himself from 20 years ago. The safe was behind the football photo, just like Lenny had said. 23. The combination worked on the first try. Inside the safe, I found everything I needed. Loan documents showing Rick owed money to some very unpleasant people. Tax records that didn't match his filed returns. and a ledger showing payments from various women over the past 3 years, including a recent entry for C. Ellery, $15,000. $15,000. Candy had given Rick $15,000 of our money. I photographed everything with my phone, then put it all back exactly as I'd found it. As I was leaving, I noticed something else. Rick's computer was still on, logged into his email. I couldn't resist. Rick's inbox was a goldmine. Threatening messages from creditors, desperate emails to other women using the same lines he'd used on Candy, and most interesting of all, a message from someone named Tony Marconi with the subject line, "Final Notice." I read the email twice, then forwarded it to myself before deleting the sent message. Tony Marconi was apparently Rick's bookie, and Rick owed him $30,000. The email made it clear what would happen if Rick didn't pay up soon. As I drove home, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: hope. Rick wasn't just a cheating scumbag, he was a desperate cheating scumbag, and desperate people made mistakes. The next morning, I called Mrs. Callahan. "Jack, dear, how are you holding up?" "I'm managing. Listen, I heard something interesting and wanted to check if it was true." "Oh." "Someone told me Rick Dalton's been borrowing money from dangerous people. Gambling debts, they said." Mrs. Callahan's voice dropped to a whisper. "Where did you hear that?" "Can't say, but is it true?" "Well, I don't like to spread rumors, but my nephew works at the bank, and he said Rick's been turned down for loans 3 times this month. And there was that incident at Murphy's last week." "What incident?" "Some men came looking for Rick. Big men, if you know what I mean. Very rude to poor Murphy. Said they'd be back if Rick didn't pay what he owed." "Perfect. That's terrible." "It is. And now with all this business with your wife, well, people are starting to talk." "What are they saying?" "That Rick's using Candy to pay his debts, that she's just another one of his marks." I let Mrs. Callahan talk for another 10 minutes, spreading the story I'd planted while making it sound like local gossip. By the time I hung up, half the town would know about Rick's money troubles by dinner time. That afternoon, I got a call from Candy. "Jack, we need to talk." "The restraining order says we can't. This is important." "Then have your lawyer call my lawyer. Please, just 5 minutes." Something in her voice made me pause. She sounded scared. "What's wrong?" "Not over the phone. Can you meet me at Murphy's? It's public, so we won't be violating the order." Against my better judgment, I agreed. Murphy's was busy with the afternoon coffee crowd. Candy was sitting in a corner booth, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her makeup smeared, and her hands were shaking. "You look terrible," I said, sliding into the booth across from her. "Thanks." That's just what a girl wants to hear. "What's so important that you risked violating a restraining order?" Candy looked around nervously, then leaned forward. "Rick's in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "Money trouble. Bad money trouble." I tried to look surprised. "How bad?" "He owes $30,000 to some very scary people. They came to his apartment last night, looking for him." "Where was Rick?" "Hiding in my hotel room. Jack, these men, they weren't playing around. They said if Rick doesn't pay up by Friday, they're going to hurt him. And you're telling me this because I think Rick's been using me, using my money to pay his debts." "Finally. What makes you think that?" "I've given him $15,000 over the past month. He said it was for business expenses, but now I'm not so sure." $15,000, Candy? That's half our emergency fund." I know, and I'm sorry. But Jack, I think I'm in danger too." "Why?" "Because these men think I'm Rick's partner. They think I'm helping him hide money." I sat back in the booth, studying my wife's face. She was genuinely terrified. "What do you want me to do about it?" "I want to come home." "Home?" "I made a mistake, Jack. A huge, terrible mistake. Rick isn't who I thought he was. He's a liar and a user, and I was too stupid to see it. So now you want to come back? Just like that? I know I don't deserve it. I know I hurt you, and I know trust doesn't come back overnight. But Jack, I'm scared. These people, they're not going to just forget about the money. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, the woman who'd betrayed me, lied to me, humiliated me in front of the whole town, the woman who'd missed my graduation to be with another man, the woman who'd threatened to destroy my career to protect her affair. No, I said. Jack, please. No. You made your choice, Candy. You chose Rick over me, chose his bed over ours, chose his lies over our marriage. You don't get to come running back just because it didn't work out. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. What I want is 18 years of my life back. Can you give me that? Candy started crying. Please don't do this. I love you. You love me? You've got a funny way of showing it. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every day for 3 months you chose him over me. Now you get to live with that choice. I stood up to leave, then turned back. But Candy, if Rick's creditors come looking for you, don't call me. Call the police. Because I'm not your husband anymore. I'm just the guy whose life you destroyed for a used car salesman with gambling debts. I walked out of Murphy's, leaving Candy crying in the corner booth. Mrs. Callahan watched the whole thing from her usual table, no doubt filing away every detail for later distribution. That night, I sat in my workshop with a bourbon and my phone, scrolling through the photos I'd taken from Rick's safe. $30,000 in gambling debts. $15,000 from Candy, which meant Rick still owed $15,000 to some very unpleasant people. I opened my laptop and started typing an email. Mr. Marconi, you don't know me, but I have information about Rick Dalton that might interest you. Rick has been using money from an affair to pay down his debts to you. The woman involved has $15,000 in cash hidden in room 237 at the Millfield Motor Inn. She's planning to leave town tomorrow morning. Thought you should know. A concerned citizen. I stared at the email for a long time before hitting send. It was cruel, vindictive, and probably illegal. It was also exactly what Rick and Candy deserved. My phone rang. Lenny. Jack, you need to turn on the news. Why? Just turn it on. Channel 8 inches. I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local news. The reporter was standing in front of Rick's car lot. Explosion occurred around 9 p.m., completely destroying the office trailer. Fire investigators say it appears to have been caused by a gas leak, but arson hasn't been ruled out. The owner, Rick Dalton, was not injured, as he wasn't on the property at the time. The camera panned across the wreckage. Rick's office was gone, along with his safe and all the evidence I'd photographed. The timing was too convenient to be an accident. Holy shit, I whispered. Gets better, Lenny said. Keep watching. The reporter continued. In a related story, police are investigating reports of suspicious activity at the Millfield Motor Inn, where several men were seen entering and leaving room 237 earlier this evening. Hotel management declined to comment, but sources say the room was registered to a local woman whose husband recently filed for divorce. I turned off the TV and poured another bourbon. Candy and Rick had both gotten exactly what they deserved, and I hadn't had to lift a finger for the final blow. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Thanks for the tip. R.D. Won't be bothering anyone for a while. I deleted the message and finished my drink. Sometimes, the universe has a sense of justice after all. The next morning brought news that spread through Millfield like wildfire. Rick Dalton had left town in the middle of the night, leaving behind his destroyed business, his debts, and his reputation. The word around Murphy's diner was that he'd been encouraged to relocate by some out-of-town visitors who didn't appreciate his creative accounting methods. Candy, meanwhile, had checked out of the Millfield Motor Inn at dawn and driven straight to her sister's house in Portland. According to Mrs. Callahan's extensive intelligence network, she'd arrived with a black eye and a story about walking into a door. I was drinking coffee and reading about Rick's gas leak in the local paper when someone knocked on my front door. This time, it was Chief Morrison. "Morning, Jack." "Chief, what brings you by? Can I come in?" "We need to talk." I led him to the kitchen and poured him a cup of coffee. He looked around the house, taking in the changes, new locks, security system, the general air of a man reclaiming his territory. "Hell of a thing about Rick Dalton's place," he said. "Terrible accident." "Accident?" "Right." Chief Morrison sipped his coffee. "Funny thing about accidents. They tend to happen to people at just the right time." "Is that so?" "Take Rick, for instance. Owing money to the wrong people, messing around with other men's wives, cooking his books. Then boom, gas leak destroys all his records and he suddenly decides to take a vacation. Lucky timing. Very lucky. Almost like someone knew it was coming." I met his eyes. "Are you asking me something, Chief?" "I'm asking if you had anything to do with Rick Dalton's sudden departure from our fair city. I've been home every night since the restraining order. Check the security cameras if you want. I believe you. But Jack, if you did have something to do with this, hypothetically speaking, I want you to know that sometimes the system works in mysterious ways. Meaning? Meaning Rick Dalton was a cancer on this community. He hurt people, stole money, broke up families. If someone helped him realize it was time to move on, well, that person might deserve a medal instead of an arrest warrant." I nodded slowly. "Hypothetically speaking." "Hypothetically." Chief Morrison finished his coffee and stood up. "By the way, that restraining order against you has been dropped. Seems the petitioners are no longer available to pursue the matter." "That's convenient, isn't it? Oh, and Jack, that business with the university resources, the paperwork got lost. Happens sometimes with older filing systems." After he left, I sat in my kitchen, marveling at how quickly things could change. 3 days ago, I was facing a messy divorce, potential job loss, and harassment charges. Now Rick was gone, Candy was hiding at her sister's house, and I was free to rebuild my life. The phone rang. My lawyer. "Jack, I've got news. Your wife's attorney called. They want to settle." "Settle what?" "She's the one who filed for divorce. Apparently, Mrs. Ellery's circumstances have changed. She's willing to accept a no-fault divorce with minimal asset division." "How minimal?" "She keeps her car and personal belongings. You keep everything else." "What's the catch?" "No catch. She just wants it done quickly and quietly." I thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. Draw up the papers. That afternoon, I drove to Portland to meet with Candy one last time. She was staying with her sister in a small apartment near the waterfront, a far cry from our Victorian house on Maple Street. Candy looked worse than she had at Murphy's. The black eye was healing, but she seemed smaller somehow, diminished. She met me at the door wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. "Jack, thank you for coming. Let's just get this over with." We sat at her sister's kitchen table while the lawyers handled the paperwork. Candy kept glancing at me like she wanted to say something, but I wasn't interested in conversation. "The house," she started, "is mine. You signed the papers." "I know, I put a lot of work into that house." "So did I. The difference is, I didn't throw it away for a used car salesman." She flinched. "Jack, about Rick. I don't want to hear about Rick. He's gone, left town without saying goodbye, took what was left of my money and disappeared. Shocking. I know you think I got what I deserved." I looked at her, really looked at her for what I knew would be the last time. "You know what I think, Candy? I think you threw away 18 years of marriage for a man who was using you from day one. I think you missed the most important day of my adult life to be with someone who saw you as a walking ATM. I think you lied to me, cheated on me, and tried to destroy my career when I found out about it. Jack, I'm not finished. I think you got exactly what you deserved. But more than that, I think you gave me exactly what I deserved. Freedom from a marriage that was already over. So in a weird way, I should probably thank you. Thank me for showing me who you really are, for proving that I'm better off without you, for reminding me that sometimes the trash takes itself out. I signed the last of the divorce papers and stood up. Have a nice life, Candy. Try not to destroy it again. I walked out of the apartment and drove back to Millfield, windows down, music loud, feeling lighter than I had in years. That evening, I was grilling another steak on my back patio when Lenny showed up with a 6-pack of beer. Heard you're officially a free man, he said, as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. How does it feel? I looked around my backyard, my house, my property, my life, and smiled. Like graduation day. We drank beer and talked until midnight, 2 middle-aged men celebrating the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Lenny told me about his own divorce 10 years earlier, how painful it had been at first, how much better his life was now. You know what the best part is? He said, as we were finishing the last beers. What's that? You won. Not just the divorce, not just keeping the house, you won the whole damn thing. Rick's gone, Candy's broke and humiliated, and you're sitting pretty. I didn't do anything. Sure you didn't, and I'm the Pope. I smiled but didn't say anything. Some victories were best enjoyed in silence. The next morning I woke up in my own bed, in my own house, with no one to answer to but myself. I made coffee, read the paper, and planned my day. Simple pleasures, but they felt like luxuries after months of lies and drama. At Murphy's Diner, Mrs. Callahan held court as usual, dispensing the latest gossip to anyone who would listen. That poor Jack Ellery, she was saying as I walked in. Such a nice man, and his wife treated him so badly, but he's better off without her, mark my words. Morning, Mrs. Callahan. Jack, sit down, dear. I was just telling everyone how well you're looking. I joined her in the corner booth, accepting congratulations from the other regulars. In a small town, your business was everyone's business, but sometimes that worked in your favor. Any word on Rick Dalton? Asked Murphy from behind the counter. Last I heard, he was somewhere in Florida, Mrs. Callahan reported. Probably looking for his next victim. Good riddance, said someone else. Amen to that, Murphy agreed. Man was nothing but trouble. I sipped my coffee and listened to the conversation flow around me. Rick Dalton was already becoming a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happened when you bit off more than you could chew in a small town. Candy was yesterday's news, a woman who'd made bad choices and paid the price, and I was Jack Ellery, the wronged husband who'd landed on his feet. After breakfast, I drove to the university for my first day back at work since the divorce was finalized. There were handshakes and congratulations from my colleagues, invitations to poker games and weekend barbecues. I was no longer half of a couple. I was a free man with possibilities. That evening, I sat in my workshop with a bourbon, looking at the framed diploma on the wall. My criminal justice degree, earned at 43, paid for with my own money and my own sweat. No one had been there to see me walk across that stage, but that was okay. I'd walked for myself. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Heard you're single now. Interested in dinner sometime? Sarah from the bank. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, I'd like that. Life, it seemed, was full of second chances. 6 months later, I was sitting on my back patio with Sarah, grilling steaks and watching the sunset. She was a few years younger than me, divorced herself, with a sharp sense of humor and no patience for games. We'd been taking things slow, building something real instead of rushing into something stupid. Any regrets? She asked, curling up next to me on the patio swing I'd built the month before. About what? The divorce, Candy, all of it. I thought about it for a moment. You know what my only regret is? What? That it took me so long to see who she really was. Sarah smiled and kissed my cheek. Well, you see clearly now. Yes, I do. As the sun set over Millfield, I thought about the past year, the betrayal, the anger, the revenge, the resolution. It had been messy and painful and complicated, but it had led me here, to this moment, with this woman, in this life I'd built for myself. Candy was somewhere in Portland, working as a receptionist and living in a studio apartment, her dreams of easy money and exciting romance reduced to reality. Rick was probably in Florida or California, looking for his next mark, always one step ahead of his creditors and his conscience. And I was here, in my house, with my job, my friends, my possibilities. I'd graduated from more than just college. I'd graduated from a life that was slowly killing me into one that was finally, truly mine. The diploma on my workshop wall said, Jack Ellery, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. But if I could have written my own degree, it would have said something different. Jack Ellery, Master of the Art of Moving On. I raised my beer in a silent toast to second chances, small-town justice, and the beautiful truth that sometimes the good guys really do win in the end.